10. All right, so if you remember last time we left off, we were calculating economic surplus, right? And so the way we were doing things like that, we thought, okay, we got a choice, right? We talked about jalapenos. And you can either buy it or not. And we have benefits and we have costs of both of those options. First of all, we realize we don't actually need this whole thing, right? We don't need the not, because we already are comparing something, right? When we say, what's the benefit of getting a jalapeno? You got to ask yourself, well, compared to what? Well, not having a jalapeno, right? So it's already sort of built in here, whatever it is that we're comparing to. We'll have to think really carefully about what it is that we're actually comparing to, or we won't be able to do anything, right? So you can think about, well, what's the benefit of buying a jalapeno? You get a jalapeno. The cost of buying a jalapeno, we said that was going to be 20 cents. Now, if we want to figure out if this is a good idea, we want to follow the cost-benefit principle that says you should always pick the thing for which the benefits most exceed the costs. Well, we can't do that yet because we don't know how much getting a jalapeno is worth. So we have to put a number value on this. We talked about the way that we can value these sorts of things is by trying to think, well, what's the equivalent amount of money that we can imagine here? Which money is sort of a stopgap, but we can do that. So we can say, okay, what's the amount of money for which I would be indifferent between getting a jalapeno and getting that amount of money? Right? If somebody offered me a little bit less, I'd take the jalapeno. If somebody offered me a little bit more, I'd take the money. But right in the middle there, that's what I value the thing at. Okay? And we determined that, at least for me, that was $3. Okay? So we can calculate the economic surplus, and these people see that. No, they cannot. As being $3 minus 20 cents, which is $2.80. More than zero, and so that sounds like a pretty good idea, at least when we're comparing getting a jalapeno to doing nothing. Right? So that's what we're trying to do. We think about our economic surplus. How much better is this than the alternative? And if that's positive, then we should do it. Right? That's going to be a thing that's worth more. It brings us more value than it costs us. Now, this is an incomplete question. Because what do we say here? Well, it's buying a jalapeno versus not buying a jalapeno. But that's not really the choice that we have, right? Because we have to make trade-offs. We talked a lot last time about trade-offs, what those are all about, right? You can't have everything. You got to give up something to get something else. Okay? So we have to ask ourselves, what is the real alternative here to getting the jalapeno? It's not doing nothing. We could buy something else, right? And so, when we have buy or not buy, really there's another option there, right? Whatever our alternative is. So this brings us to another term, the opportunity cost. You may have heard this before. The basic idea of an opportunity cost is this, that nothing is free. Whatever you give up to choose something, that is your opportunity cost. Whatever you could have done instead, but are not doing, that is the opportunity cost that you're giving. So everything's got a cost. It's just, sometimes it's just the thing that didn't happen. So we can split our costs into two different kinds of things. We have what are called direct costs and indirect costs. Let's talk about all this stuff. So we got opportunity costs, which is what you give up, right? And that could be bad things. It could also be good things. Or it could be good things or it could be bad things, right? Sometimes you are giving up the opportunity to do something that's not so great. Still an opportunity cost. But I think of two things. We got direct costs and benefits. These are the things that actually happen. Which is a weird way to think about it. How could a cost or benefit be something that didn't happen? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But direct costs and benefits are the things that actually happen. They tangibly exist in the real world. They are events that have occurred. And so that's what the direct costs and benefits, that's what makes them so direct, the things that actually happen. So in this case, if we buy a jalapeno, we actually get a jalapeno that's worth $3, right? This is a direct benefit. If we buy a jalapeno, we actually hand them 20 cents or have them run 20 cents on our card, right? So this is actually going to go away from us if we buy the jalapenos. This is a direct cost, right? So we got direct costs, we got direct benefits. Those are easy to think about, right? They're pretty obvious. You go buy something, you do something. Whatever you actually get, you actually get. Whatever you actually give up, you actually give up. Easy, no problem. Then we got the indirect costs. These are harder to think about. Things that don't happen, we're going to have to figure those out when we're figuring out how good something is. Yeah. Keep your money. Yeah, exactly. Right. If you don't buy the jalapeno, you get to keep this money. Right. And so that's something that didn't happen. Right. We did not get to keep the money. Right? So these are things that don't happen. Why do you think we need to care about things that don't happen when we're figuring out economic surplus? Why do you think that might matter? Any guesses? It seems like if it didn't happen, it shouldn't matter, right? But I'm telling you it's going to.
Might influence our decision on whether we do it or not.
Yeah, it's going to influence the decision. And it should influence the decision because this stuff that didn't happen, these are the alternatives that could have happened, but didn't, right? If you choose to do one thing, you're not doing the other. And so knowing how good that other thing could have been, that's exactly what you need to know when you're figuring out which of those two things to do, right? You're sort of weighing the scale and you need to know how heavy the other side of the scale is or you can't figure out anything, right? So we need to figure out what are the costs and benefits we could have had if we did something else, but don't, right? In order to figure out what's the actual economic surplus of the thing that we're getting. So let's do a quick example, an antiquated example of things that do not occur anymore. Should you go to a movie or go to a campus dance event, right? So what are the costs and benefits of going to the movie and the costs and benefits of going to the dance event? So we're going to make a table just like this one. But instead of just buy or don't, we're going to have two different alternatives that we're going to weigh up. Okay, so we have movie. We have dance. We're going to have benefits, and we're going to have costs. So the costs and benefits of going to the movie, well, we get to enjoy a movie. All right. Now, we don't get tired from dancing or whatever those negative consequences are, perhaps a hangover if we're having a really good time. And so we can think of that, that's a cost of going to the dance, right? Tired from dancing, right? That's a cost of going to the dance, which means that not having this happen, that's a benefit of going to the movie, right? You don't have to bear those costs, which is a good thing, right? So if we choose to go to the movie, this is something that did not happen. And so by figuring out how good of an idea the movie is, we need to compare that to what could have happened instead, right? The fact that that bad thing didn't happen is a benefit to us. Next, we can ask about the costs. Gotta buy a ticket. But we don't get the social activity. So an indirect cost is that we don't get the benefit of the dance that we could have gone to, right? So here's the thing we're thinking about. We're calculating the economic surplus of going to a movie. Here's our alternative, but we're going to a dance. If we want to know how good of an idea this is, we have to realize, okay, yeah, we're going to enjoy a movie. Yeah, we have to buy a ticket. That's a good thing. That's a bad thing. But we also don't get the good thing over here. That's a cost. Something good did not happen. That's a cost to us. Something bad did not happen. That's a benefit, right? And so we need to figure out what this stuff all is in order to figure out how good of an idea going to the movie is. It also means we have to figure out what our alternative is. You can't really figure out how good of an idea something is at all if you don't know what the alternative is. Right? That's the idea behind opportunity costs.